Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another Candid Conversations about network marketing with me, BK, and over the other end, Dr. Wayne. Hi, Dr. Wayne. Morning.
Hi, BK. Hi, everyone. Looking forward to today's podcast.
Yeah. So, as you know, I always start with a very classic question, and Dr. Wayne is getting used to this being asked by me. And so, what are we going to talk about today?
Yeah, so today I thought we'd go into more the marketing side of it a little bit today. So we've really gone into, on other episodes, we've talked a lot about mind space and headspace and the importance of why and etc. So just in terms of now the marketing, which is, even when we used to teach this to wellness professionals or even business owners, it's kind of like a negative word. Like marketing for some reason has a negative connotation, probably the same as network marketing has a negative connotation until we start actually going deeper into it. And then we find out that it's not so scary. So we now know, those people are listening, that network marketing is not that scary. It's one of the most cleanest industries I believe you can be in when you've got an ethos and a clean product. They're the two things that are really important caveats in making that statement. And then from there, it's now understanding marketing. So there are different forms of marketing, that's for sure. But the two major, just putting it into two boxes of understanding, there's the institutional style marketing, and then we have something called emotional direct response marketing. So the institutional marketing is something like a brand name will come in, like Nike or maybe even McDonald's, and they'll come into a country and they've got millions of dollars. And what they'll do then is they'll then saturate the market with their advertising, and therefore they'll take over that particular, or not take over, but they'll move in very quickly and even take over that particular industry. And we've seen this even with regards to Uber, and they'll come into a country. Sometimes what happens is if there's with Uber, for example, sometimes if they need to amalgamate or join or sell, they'll do that. But they'll come into a country, they'll do their advertising, they'll find out where they are in the marketplace, and then they establish themselves, or they will then buy or sell. So, however, we as small business enterprise people, we haven't got millions of dollars behind us.
Yeah,
So
quite a burn rate. They have a specific name for it. They call it a burn rate. That means when they go into a new company, a new country, they have X dollars to burn to
yes.
push through their marketing, right? Yeah, yeah. We don't have that kind of money to burn.
No. No, we don't have that sort of money to burn. So what we do have, though, once we understand the concept, is emotional direct response marketing. So let's just divide those words up. So emotional. What we mean by this, it comes from a heart space, it's transparent, it is doing things morally correct to the best of your ability, being human. You know, what I mean by this and what we mean by this, BK and I, is just coming from that space where you're nurturing, trying to, you're there in a trusting role. You're there as that leader or as that network marketer who's there to try and help. So that's what the first word means, emotional. Direct response means that now you know your numbers. Now you know that, say, for example, if I contact Jimmy on the 26th of blah, I then know that 4 days later I've got back in contact with him and he hasn't got back to me. He's ghosted me, for example, and then I know I've sent another email or text or get in contact with him maybe in another 20 days, whatever it may be, you know your numbers. Because importantly, at the end of the day or at the end of the week, if we know we've contacted 20 people, we should statistically therefore know if we contacted 20 people, we should have 2 to 3 or maybe 4 people who are interested, which should then get to 2 sales, for example. So that's the understanding of the direct response. So direct response also means what type of means are we going to contact our person as well. So that could be from, for example, with regards to one-on-one, this is getting back to our list. We'll go through this in a little bit more detail shortly as well, meaning are we going to use social media? Where do you feel comfortable with regards to moving forward with your direct response? And then the marketing side of it is then basically putting systems together around everything that you do. So if we look at emotional direct response marketing, once we understand those concepts, I think then it makes it easier for us then to move forward in our marketing strategies with network marketing as the theme.
Yeah, I think because of my former background as a teacher, I've always favored teaching principles over methodology, so to speak. Yes, the methodology is important, and we will go into some depth later on. But I think what Dr. Wayne was trying to explain just now is just basically an overview of what EDM or emotional direct response marketing is. And once you kind of understand the principles behind them, it is much easier for you to scale it up and also to deploy it to various medias. For example, like what Dr. Wayne was saying about, the various avenues that you want to consider. You knowing the principles, you will be able to navigate the different avenues and platforms a lot easier, right, Dr. Wayne?
Yes, exactly. So the theme then is, so we understand the emotional side in terms of emotional direct response marketing. So in terms of just, this is the mindset, this is the importance of, if you have some challenges within your own framework of reference, then this is where the mindset stuff is really important to allow change to occur. So we're not going to go into that today because we've done that in a number of other podcasts. But today is basically kind of nutting down more in the direct response area, so to speak. So as BK just mentioned, so there's the main thing now is, okay, where do you feel comfortable? And I know, and BK knows a lot of people who in the network marketing space, is they feel more comfortable basically one-on-one, making the list, getting in contact with people by phone or face-to-face. Now, of course, we can't do face-to-face, but it might be Zooms where we are, depending upon where we are in distances and that as well. So we've got the people who really like that one-on-one contact, and that's fantastic. So we make the list, and I think you had a good little point there before, BK, about some people don't think that they've got much of a list.
Yeah, I think sometimes when those of us in the industry for a while, we kind of also encounter people who make comments, like they say that I can't do this business because I don't have many friends, I don't have many people on my phone, and I can't do this, right? And that's a fairly common objection in a way.
Yes.
But interestingly, what we have noticed over time is that 99% of our teams right now, most of us who have been involved for a while, will know that most of them didn't even exist on this little device prior to starting the business. So long story short, it just means that it doesn't matter what is the size of your name list now, because chances are 99% of them would come from somewhere else. So what we're talking about today, what Dr. Wayne is going to talk about today, about direct response and different platforms and avenues, would be very, very relevant to you.
Yes, very true. And even then, it's interesting when you then start asking people specific questions about their list, and you start going through the alphabet. Who's your accountant? So you can, and then you go to B. Who's your builder? Who's your So help me out here, BK, different times. But you can see, so then you can go through A, B, C, D, E, and you'll find a lot of people you already know or you already know of.
Yeah, we do have access to things like memory joggers, so sometimes we forget the people we actually know. In fact, most of the time, if you really sit down and go through a memory jogger, most people will be able to go through or come out with a list of at least 200 to 250 names. Typically, and in fact, that's the common number that we always talk about, right? And some of these principles are, for example, like what Dr. Wei was mentioning, who are the people that you are currently paying? People that you're paying them for a certain kind of service. These are the people you can write down. So like your beautician, your barber, your hairdresser, your insurance guy, your car sales guy, a lot of these names that will probably be able to come out with quite fast. And then after that, you have your associations like who do you go to school with, who do you used to work with, and so on and so forth. So there are many, many ways. And we do, if you want, we can actually send you along a file for what we call a memory jogger, that lists down all the possible questions you could ask yourself, and you probably can put a name beside that particular category.
Okay. How would they do that? What would they do to be able to get that?
I will just include the link. So we have actually good news. We've already gotten up our site ready at networkmarketerpodcast.com. So just go onto the site and you can actually fill in the form, and we'll be able to get that to you.
Oh, lovely. Very good. Very good. Yeah. So it is marvelous how big that list then becomes. And as we know from network marketers, then just divide that up. And for the people who are experienced, this is of course old news, but those people who are just coming on and understanding network marketing, then you divide that list up, and then you divide the list up into hot, warm, and then cold list, so to speak. And then just, if you feel comfortable then reaching out to them. Some people like phone, other people like Messenger, other people like WhatsApp, other people, whatever, WeChat, whatever the method that you like, then of course please do that as well. And then from there, it's then you've got all the other social media, and it's marvelous when you look at how many people are in there as well, and even in LinkedIn, your Facebook, your Instagram, all the different platforms that's available today, TikTok. It's just really, really is incredible, and we can now have them available to allow us to then build the list. And you were mentioning before different ways of doing that, BK.
Yeah. So like what we said about earlier on, there are plenty of platforms as of now, and of course the common ones as of now would be Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and a slightly more recent one would be TikTok. So I'm guessing that the new platforms will not stop coming out. And so the basic idea is that when you get yourself, just choose a platform that you're kind of comfortable with and understand the rules of engagement on that platform, and you will be able to do fairly well. For example, some quick ideas here would be Facebook. Facebook is typically for slightly older age groups, so maybe 35 onwards, would be more prone or more likely to be on Facebook. And usually people are on Facebook for socializing, so they don't really like a too direct level of marketing kind of messaging. So that is something you may want to be aware of. But on the other hand, Instagram is slightly different. It's a younger crowd. It's typically a younger age group of people on the profiles. But at the same time, they're also a little bit more comfortable with being marketed to directly. So knowing the platforms and their idiosyncrasies and their rules of engagement would help you to navigate them in a better way. And of course, LinkedIn is another one which you need to be more professional on LinkedIn. People are happy to engage with you, but they typically would engage with you as a professional, because this, after all, is a professional portals. So that is another thing to consider. So basically understand the principles. That's what we're trying to say. Every platform has its own level of the different kind of engagement. Of course, TikTok is a new one. TikTok is interesting because a lot of people are jumping on it. The engagement is super high, but then for TikTok, you need to come up with slightly more engaging or more entertaining pieces of content, and it's typically micro content, not long form, and it's quite micro. So those are the things that you kind of need to be aware of.
Yeah. And TikTok is more video as well, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So you've really got to be out there and enjoy yourself being on video.
It is, yeah. But I think to bring it back, just one quick step would be understanding that all these platforms are there to give you access to a lot of people, right? You have access to a lot of people, and when you are able to access a lot of people, and then you tweak your messaging and you tweak your way you approach people, and what Dr. Wayne alluded to earlier on, knowing the numbers then you will be able to generate a business plan for yourself to engage on these platforms, right? Again, keeping in line the rules of engagement and how you engage with people, don't get into trouble. Like for example, Facebook, if you go too fast and add too many people, you might find that you'll be put into something called, they call it Facebook jail. They will disallow you from adding new friends for a number of days, you know. So just be aware of such things. Yeah.
Is that number about 10? Is it 10 per day, or does
I
it vary?
there are more than one metric. There are two factors involved for Facebook. So one would be the number. So if you are artificially adding too many people in a single day, then they will flag you. And the other one is the speed. So for a normal human being, you will probably add like maybe 5-10 friends a day, right? But if you're adding like 50 at a very short time frame, then the system kind of flags you and say that, okay, this guy might be a bot. He might not be real, you know. So they will flag you. So just understand that. I think bottom line is do something that feels natural. Would you be adding 50 friends a day on Facebook if you were not marketing? That
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
So behave like a normal human being, and then it will be your activities or your behaviors will not be tracked. That is my advice.
Yeah. And it's exactly the same with LinkedIn and all these platforms as well. When you're adding people. Yeah. So,
which is good because I think all the platforms are starting to become aware of human behavior, and there will always be marketers out there who try to, and when I say marketers, I don't mean network marketers only. I mean any form of marketer. You know, they will try to game the system. They will try to have find a way to so-called take advantage of the system, and the algorithms and the platforms are becoming very, very smart. Even like YouTube or Google or any of these platforms, they know when you're trying to game the system. And like Google always comes out with algorithms for one reason or another. They call it an algorithm change, and they will start to surface or highlight different, they will prominently highlight certain websites and not certain websites. Of course, some of them, the rules of engagement, we kind of don't really agree with sometimes, but yes.
Yes. And they brought out a big one last year, didn't they, in the health space, Google with their algorithms. They totally changed the algorithms, which was interesting, back in June last year. Yeah.
Of course, the other thing that maybe just as a last point of note for these platforms, just remember that all these platforms exist to make money, regardless of whether it's Facebook, LinkedIn, or whatever. They exist to make money, and they obviously would welcome you to do some form of marketing. For example, on Facebook, they would welcome you to do marketing in a form that you are comfortable with. But if you do it in such a way where you are not paying them, for example, let's say you're doing a lot of marketing on your page, and then they think that, okay, hey, you are acting more like a business. You're not acting like a person. Then you should be engaging Facebook as a business entity, and as a result, you should be paying for advertising for people to watch whatever you're doing or whatever you're saying. And so that is another consideration. So when you are on these platforms and you engage in behaviors that they will stipulate or they will think it's a business activity, then they may say, okay, hey, you should be advertising and paying us money, and rather not just making full use of us. So just keep all those things in mind.
Yeah. And the good thing about everything we're talking about, knowledge gives you that awareness. So this is good knowledge for everyone as well as general principles.
Yeah, I mean, we could go into certain details over the next few episodes, and because it is not possible to cover in a single episode for any of these platforms. Actually, we could do a full-blown workshop or course for any of these platforms, of course. Yeah. But I think today what Dr. Wayne and I wanted to do was kind of get started on this topic and give a framework and maybe some guiding principles. And of course, if there's interest, we are happy to go into more depth, right?
More depth, yeah. And just to round off the direct response, and of course, you still then have email marketing. You then have direct mail, as in the old mail form, and And it's interesting when you're looking at, not in terms of our industry, but when you're looking at high ticket industries, especially the direct mail, it works incredibly well. A lot of people think that it doesn't, but it works incredibly well. And even email, if you look at statistics, the open rate is poor. However, if you've got an email list that whereby you're giving incredible content, that open rate is actually quite high.
Yeah.
So it just depends upon the content and who's on the list, of course, as well. So hopefully that's helped enormously with understanding the space we want to be in a marketing sense is emotional, direct response marketing. And remembering emotional is what to do with coming from heart, coming from a space that is nurturing, coming from a space that is transparent, helping people to become better selves as well as yourself. Direct response then, as we've gone through already, and then the marketing is then helping you to put it into systems as well. And as BK mentioned before, if you're interested in that, sorry, what do you call it, mate?
The memory jogger.
Memory jogger to help you to build your list. Just go to the, BK will have a link down below, I'm sure.
Yeah. So thank you once again for joining us for this episode. We are happy to share what we know and bring value to the community because Dr. Wayne and I really love the industry. We find that this is, and I realized I picked up on one of his terms today. He's been saying this quite often these few days, the cleanest industry, right? Yeah, it's true. I think it's not perfect, but I think it's better. And it's definitely one of the cleanest industries we can be in. So we both love the industry. We want to bring value. And so again, we have a website up. It's networkmarketerpodcast.com. So please do join us at that site and you can keep yourself updated about upcoming episodes as well as some of this. I'll put up a link for how you can download the memory jogger as well. So thank you for joining us. Thank you, Dr. Wayne.
Thank you, BK. Thank you, everyone.